What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Spencer Raxter with Lions Nation Unite. Make sure you smash that like button, smash that subscribe button. Really appreciate you tapping in with us here. You know what Lions Nation Unite is? It is a great platform made by legendary wide receiver Herman to bring all different facets of Lions social media and content creators together, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, wherever you get your content. Lions Nation Unite has a presence, and make sure you like them. Make sure you also get in on that membership stuff. We've got a lot of stuff in works for the off season for members only content, including an interview with Corey Schlesinger that's going to be coming next week. And then we're going to continue doing that. We have Lions legends lined up throughout the whole summer to get great exclusive interviews with that you will only be able to access if you are a member of the LNU YouTube. So make sure you go in there, get that membership, and then you'll have access to the full dashboard of stuff we have to offer, including other guys that we're going to get interviews with. We already got one lined up with Roy Williams as well, but make sure you come tap into Lions Nation Unite and join our members only club. But now I want to break down what's going on with the Detroit Lions and free agency. They've made a couple of really big moves, I think, to bolster that defensive line and to get some players back that you needed. I think Lions fans are freaking out a little bit over the wrong thing, so I want to tackle that as well. But first things first, let's break down what they've done so far in free agency. You've got all of these signings, obviously the guys that weren't here, the guys that you went out and got, guys you brought into this team. The biggest one, DJ Reed coming from the Jets. I think we all love that deal. You got him on a very cheap contract, and he's going to be your cornerback one going forward. After that, you got defensive tackle Roy Lopez. That was the next biggest move. He is a very good rotational defensive tackle with Lee McNeil being out presumably to begin the season. You need all the help you can get in that defensive tackle spot. And them adding Roy Lopez the way they did, who I'm very happy with, I thought it was a great deal. It just shows me that they don't trust Broderick Martin. They're not going to expect a lot out of Broderick Martin this year. So that's what Roy Lopez is going to be in. And you got Grant Stewart. He's going to be a special teams linebacker guy, kind of your replacement for Jalen Reeves-Maybin. I like that signing as well. And then you got a couple guys to fill out the roster. And Kenny, yeah, boy, the tight end from the Jets, a blocking guy, but a solid piece that you need. And quarterback Kyle Allen. And then we know the biggest move in retention was Derek Barnes. He brought Derek Barnes back in here, gave him a pretty big contract. The Lions fans freaked out about it at first, but I think they've all settled down, understands who Derek Barnes is, and why that contract is actually a pretty good deal for the Detroit Lions based on the production you're going to get out of him and with the salary cap rising, how it balances out. Then you've got Levi Onwuzurike, Marcus Davenport, Tim Patrick, Dan Skipper, Trevor Nowatzki, Ezekiel Turner, Anthony Pittman, Miles Adams, Mitchell Agood, all re-signing. Brad Holmes retaining all of those guys. And then most recently, re-signing both Pat O'Connor and El Quadin Muhammad to that defensive line. These are two big moves, and these are two important moves. And I'm going to start off with El Quadin Muhammad because he is a guy that I think Lions fans wanted to retain. Let me pull up his stats real quick just so I don't get any of this wrong. But this is a guy you brought in. You're bringing him in on a one-year deal. You're bringing him back on a one-year deal, I should say. And last year, out of El Quadin Muhammad, you got he played in 9 games for you. He started 2 of them. He got you a sack, 29 total tackles. He had 3 quarterback hits, a tackle for loss, and he got a forced fumble there too. So he went in there, he made plays when he was asked to do it. And remember, that is without Aiden Hutchinson. That is without your blue chip pass rusher on the other side of him. I thought bringing back El Quadin Muhammad on a one-year deal was a good move by Brad Holmes and the Detroit Lions. You don't know what you're going to get out of Marcus Davenport when it comes to the amount of games he plays. What's he going to be? How is he going to recover from these constant injuries? Is he going to be that same guy? Because when he was on the field, he played well. When Marcus Davenport was ready to go, he played well. But unfortunately, you can't trust him to be out on the field very often. But I like signing El Quadin Muhammad because, like I said, he was kind of forced into that role last year after Aiden Hutchinson went down, after Marcus Davenport had already been down. The Detroit Lions didn't really have a pass rusher outside of Zadarius Smith. Josh Pascal, a very good defensive end, not really a pass rusher. You bring in El Quadin Muhammad, and he played well for you when he got out there. this is a good deal to bring him back because you needed a guy like that if things go down, you have a rotational piece that you can trust and that you've seen give you some results before. Now, I'm not saying this is, oh, look out, the Lions got El-Quadin Muhammad opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. They got the best pass rushing duo in the NFL. Like, no, nobody's saying that, but this is a guy that will help you and will be a rotational piece going forward. So I don't think Lions fans should be poo-pooing this. I think this is a good signing to bring back a guy that you were comfortable with filling in that role last year without your blue chip guy. You were comfortable and happy with what El-Quadin Muhammad gave you out of that edge spot last year without having Aiden Hutchinson out there. So imagine how much better he's going to look when you got a guy on the other side of him that's your blue chip, that's your second overall pick, that is a guy that's going to get paid $40 million a year to rush the passer very soon. So I thought that was a good move to bring him in. And you could say the same things for Pat O'Connor. Is Pat O'Connor Aaron Donald? Is Pat O'Connor Warren Sapp? No, he's not this game breaker ultimate player, but he produced for you. And again, let me pull up his stats so I don't shoot him out of any sacks or anything that he got. But in games that he was forced to play because of injuries to guys like Ali McNeil and other defensive tackles in your rotation, you brought in Pat O'Connor and he made some plays for you. This is not a guy that's going to make or break your team as a Super Bowl contender, but it is a guy that will fill in and will do his role and do it well. And he played in 12 games for you. He didn't start any of them. He had only one sack, but he had 18 tackles. He had a couple tackles for loss and a quarterback hit. So again, are we praising Brad Holmes for bringing back El-Quadin Muhammad and Pat O'Connor? These are the best moves that anybody could have made. There's no doubt in my mind the Detroit Lions will win the Super Bowl now. No, I don't think anybody's doing that. But these are good quality players to have in a good quality defensive line rotation that if somebody goes down, you know what you have in them. And the biggest thing for me that I think Lions fans need to understand is that he had to make these moves. So retaining Mitchell Agood, Miles Adams, Anthony Pittman, Ezekiel Turner, Trevor Nowaski, Dan Skipper, Tim Patrick, Marcus Davenport, Levi Onwuzurike, Derek Barnes, and now Pat O'Connor and El-Quadin Muhammad were because they had to. The amount of free agents this Detroit Lions team had going into this offseason was staggering. They had over 20 players off their 53-man roster that were free agents. You're not going to fill a 30-man roster. You have 30 people on your roster. You're not going to fill the rest of that with playmakers. You're not going to fill the rest of that with Chase Youngs and Davenports and go out there and get Joey Bosa and those guys and that guy and this guy and bring in all the studs. Like, yeah, I'd like to too, but you need to field a team first. And I think that's kind of the reason why they cut Zadarius Smith, because they were down 20-plus players in free agency. They only had around 30 guys on their active roster. They needed to sign basically half of a team before they could worry about paying Zadarius Smith up to $11 million a season. They needed to make sure they could field a 53-man roster before they go out and pay somebody $10 million to come in here for a one-year deal. So you had to re-sign all your guys. And I know people were, oh, bargain bin Brad at it again. All he's doing is signing all his old players. Yeah, because he has to. Because he had so many free agents that you needed to retain these guys or you wouldn't have been able to field an NFL team. That's what it is. And they still have the opportunity to go out there and get somebody else once the team is set, once they have their guys, once they have enough players to say, hey, we have a 53-man roster. Now you can go get a guy that could push you over the top. So maybe they bring back Zadarius Smith. I'm not holding out hope on it, but I think people poo-pooing the Pat O'Connor and the El-Quadin Muhammad signings are kind of stupid. Like, you needed those guys. You did. You need players. You need a roster. You need guys that are going to fill in, guys that are going to be there. And you can trust these guys. They've been there before. The team trusted them. They wanted them back. And it's not like they went out and gave El-Quadin Muhammad $10 million a year or gave Pat Connor his 5-year contract to lock him up for a while. No, they brought him in here to fill out the roster and be guys on the team this year. And like I said, Pat O'Connor, El-Quadin Muhammad, those guys are not world breakers, but they're solid and they're rotational pieces. And you've got Aiden Hutchinson. You've got Marcus Davenport, who you'd like to stay healthy. And then he would be a very important factor in your defensive line rotation. You have Ali McNeil coming back. You brought back Levi Onwuzurike to fill that gap of Noah Lee McNeil for probably the first couple weeks of the season. You've got Josh Pascal, who's a very good player, especially opposite Aiden Hutchinson. And then Brad's going to get somebody in the draft. So stop acting like this. They're not going to get an impact player. Brad Holmes is still got a draft card to give. Brad Holmes still has a lot of players that he's going to get in the draft, which, newsflash, is where he does his best work. So I can understand Lions fans wanting an edge rusher. Because I still did. I wanted, a Joey Bosa. I wanted DeMarcus Lawrence. I wanted one of those guys. Was I upset when I saw them go to a different place on a cheap deal? Yeah, I was. But I also know that Brad Holmes had to do the moves that he had to do to field a roster. Like, you weren't missing out on those guys because you signed Al-Quadin Muhammad or Pat O'Connor or Mitchell Agood or Trevor Nowaski or Ezekiel Turner or any of those guys. You needed to sign those guys first because you needed to field your team. You needed to make sure that you had an NFL roster. Now, look at that. Zadarius Smith still out there. Matt Judon still out there. I'm not getting my hopes up for any of those guys, but you have your team set, and now if you want to get a splash impact piece, you can. But I don't think he's going to. I ultimately think he's going to get that in the draft. I ultimately think that Brad Holmes wants to pair his $40 million soon-to-come a year edge rusher in Aiden Hutchinson with a rookie for the next 5 seasons on a rookie contract. And that sounds pretty good to me. And this draft is pretty damn deep when it comes to defensive linemen and edge rushers. So I don't think everybody needs to just freak out because we're re-signing our guys. That's something they needed to do. The Detroit Lions needed to re-sign. Listen to all these guys they've retained. All of these guys. And I know, Brad, bargain bin Brad. Derek Barnes, Levi, Marcus Davenport, Tim Patrick, Dan Skipper, Trevor Nowaski, Ezekiel Turner, Anthony Pittman, Miles Adams, Mitchell Agood, and now Al-Quadin Muhammad and Pat O'Connor. That is 12 players right there that you brought back. That alone was 12 free agents off of your team, not including the guys you lost to free agency, and then the new guys you brought in DJ Reed, Roy Lopez, Grant Stewart, Kenny Yeboah, and Kyle Allen. So that's 17 guys that Brad Holmes had to sign. Think about that. 17 players already, at least 17 players already in free agency that Brad Holmes had to sign. This roster was bare bones, man. They were looking around like Will Smith. Why doesn't he want me, man? Where'd everybody go? Like, there was nobody there. You had to sign at the minimum 17 guys to bring them back here or to field this roster. And they're still not done yet. They still got guys they need to re-sign. So I'm not freaking out. And free agency's not over. I do expect Brad to bring in a veteran, either at the edge position or the offensive line. I think he's either going to bring in a veteran interior offensive lineman or a veteran edge piece and then go into the draft with no gaping hole on your team. And that's what he likes to do. Because how many times has he said? He uses free agency to fix needs, and he uses the draft to acquire talent. So I think this team still does have a need. I think it's backup interior offensive lineman right now. I think that's the biggest need on the Detroit Lions. So I would expect him to sign a veteran guard or center or whoever before signing another edge rusher to bring in rotation. But I know Lions fans, like I said, you can be upset. I'm not here to tell you can't be upset. That's you. But the thing that made me mad was when I would see people poo-pooing these deals like, oh, you can't do that. Why are you signing all these guys? Go get Chase Young. Go get Trey Hendrickson. Go get those. You had to sign all these guys. You had over 20 players in free agency, meaning you had about 30 guys on your active roster. So you needed to sign 20 plus guys to bring them in here to field the team. So that's why you saw all of these moves. And I know that the small bargain bin, not an impact player moves don't excite you. But these are guys that have shown when they're called upon, they're going to go out there and they're going to give everything they have. And we've seen them make plays before. And it'll be a lot easier for Al-Quadin Muhammad or Pat O'Connor or Levi Onwuzurike to make plays on the defensive line when they're lining up next to Aiden Hutchinson. I think that's the biggest thing that everybody needs to remember. The biggest free agency grab, the biggest contract, the biggest impact player that Brad Holmes was bringing to the Detroit Lions this year is Aiden Hutchinson being healthy. You forget what the defense looked like when he was. And I still think they're going to upgrade this team, but I think it's going to be in the draft. I expect Brad to maybe grab a veteran offensive lineman to fill out free agency, other than practice squad guys to fill out the roster, and then go after his impact edge in the draft. And I'm okay with that. Appreciate you guys tapping in. Make sure you smash that like button. Lions Nation Unite. And like I said, get in on those memberships on YouTube and on Facebook. We're going to have a lot of exclusive content coming out for members only all summer long. All summer long. We got an interview with Corey Schlesinger on the docket, already recorded, ready to go. We've got Roy Williams coming in to interview pretty soon. Extremely excited. We're going to be doing a bunch of different guys. Calvin Johnson, Barry Sanders, Herman Moore, Lomas Brown, all of these guys, potential interviews that you could see if you become a member of Lions Nation Unite. It's going to be fun. Appreciate you guys for joining. Smash that like button. We'll see you later. Peace.